In late October 2025, President Donald J. Trump embarked on a high-stakes diplomatic tour across Asia, culminating in a pivotal summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Busan, South Korea. Beyond formal talks, the tour showcased America's renewed commitment to regional stability, strengthened alliances, and the projection of U.S. economic and military influence. This visit not only reinforced trade and security priorities, but also signaled to allies and adversaries alike that the United States remains a decisive, strategic leader, shaping the 21st century balance of power. A strategic pivot, America's return to Asia. President Trump's Asia tour was not merely a diplomatic gesture, it was a calculated move to reassert American influence in a region where China has been expanding its economic and geopolitical footprint. The tour began in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, where President Trump participated in the 47th ASEAN Summit. During this summit, the United States finalized trade agreements with Malaysia and Cambodia, encompassing approximately 68% of the $475 billion two-way trade with the 10 ASEAN nations. These agreements aim to counter China's growing economic dominance in Southeast Asia and were structured to enhance U.S. economic ties with the region while addressing concerns over trade practices. Beyond trade, the tour highlighted America's broader strategic vision. By actively engaging ASEAN nations, the United States signaled its commitment to regional stability, infrastructure development, and collaborative security initiatives. The visit reinforced the message that the U.S. is not just a market partner, but a steadfast ally invested in the prosperity and sovereignty of Southeast Asian nations. Following Malaysia, President Trump visited Japan, where he received a royal welcome and engaged in discussions focused on trade and defense cooperation. Japan's commitment to investments and a strengthened defense posture underscored the deepening U.S.-Japan alliance in the face of regional challenges posed by China's assertiveness. Moreover, this leg of the tour demonstrated the United States' readiness to project power, maintain technological leadership, and ensure that freedom of navigation and democratic principles remain protected throughout the Indo-Pacific region. The Trump-Xi Summit, a defining moment. The centerpiece of President Trump's Asia tour was the high-profile meeting with President Xi Jinping, held on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in Busan, South Korea. This historic face-to-face encounter marked the first direct engagement between the two leaders since President Trump's return to the White House, coming after months of mounting tensions, including America's imposition of a 100% tariff on Chinese imports over rare earth restrictions. The summit was a crucial test of diplomacy and strategic resolve. In the weeks leading up to the meeting, both nations engaged in intensive, behind-the-scenes negotiations, forging a preliminary trade framework that addressed pressing economic and security concerns. China agreed to ease export controls on rare earth minerals vital for American high-tech industries, restore U.S. soybean exports to support domestic farmers, work toward resolving the TikTok algorithm sale to safeguard national security, and collaborate on halting the flow of fentanyl precursors to U.S. communities. President Trump underscored that this framework demonstrated mutual respect and showcased America negotiating from a position of strength, paving the way for a deal that would protect U.S. interests and promote global economic stability. Strategic implications for America. The outcomes of the Trump-Xi summit carried profound and enduring consequences for America's strategic positioning on the global stage. By engaging directly with President Xi, President Trump demonstrated that America is willing to confront China's economic strategies decisively while advancing its own national interests. This summit marked a clear strategic evolution, blending assertive competition with targeted engagement to secure long-term advantages for the United States and its allies. Economically, the agreement was poised to strengthen U.S. manufacturing by guaranteeing access to critical raw materials, high-tech components, and expanded market opportunities. Restoring U.S. soybean exports provided immediate relief to farmers, bolstering rural economies and reinforcing the backbone of the domestic agricultural sector. Addressing the TikTok issue further ensured American technological and data sovereignty, signaling a firm commitment to national security in the digital age. Geopolitically, the summit reinforced America's role as a dominant force in global affairs. By negotiating from a position of strength, the United States sent a clear and unambiguous message to allies and adversaries alike. It remains committed to upholding international norms, preserving freedom of navigation in contested maritime regions, such as the South China Sea. and defending democratic partners across East Asia. The summit underscored that U.S. leadership is not only decisive in shaping immediate outcomes, but also essential for ensuring regional stability, protecting American influence, and securing strategic advantages that will resonate well into the coming decades. Broader impacts and global repercussions. The Trump-Xi summit carried consequences that extended far beyond U.S.-China relations, influencing the broader global economic and strategic landscape. By establishing a preliminary trade framework, the summit opened the door to a potential de-escalation of the protracted U.S.-China trade war, which had threatened to destabilize international markets and disrupt supply chains critical to industries worldwide. Avoiding a full-blown trade conflict reassured investors, stabilized commodity prices, and fostered confidence in global economic growth, providing tangible benefits to countries reliant on stable trade flows. Moreover, the summit highlighted the enduring value of direct diplomacy in managing complex international challenges. By engaging in face-to-face discussions, both leaders demonstrated that constructive dialogue remains the most effective means of bridging differences, addressing contentious issues, and advancing shared goals. The summit's outcomes signaled to the world that strategic engagement, rather than unilateral action, can yield meaningful results, even between rivals with deep-seated economic and political disagreements. The international community closely monitored the summit, recognizing that its agreements would ripple across regional alliances, trade partnerships, and geopolitical alignments. U.S. allies in Asia and beyond evaluated the implications for their own security and economic strategies, while competitors recalibrated their approaches in response to America's renewed assertiveness. In this way, the summit not only reinforced U.S. leadership, but also reaffirmed the country's role as a stabilizing force in global affairs, shaping 21st century international dynamics for years to come. President Trump's Asia tour, culminating in the landmark meeting with President Xi Jinping, marked a pivotal chapter in U.S. foreign policy. By placing American interests at the forefront and engaging China directly, President Trump reinforced America's leadership and signaled a return to pragmatic, results-driven diplomacy. The agreements reached were poised to reshape U.S.-China relations, stabilize global trade, and reaffirm America's role as a decisive architect of the 21st century geopolitical order. The true measure of success will depend on the sustained commitment of both nations to uphold their agreements and manage emerging challenges. Beyond immediate economic and security outcomes, the summit demonstrated that America remains a global leader capable of forging strategic partnerships while asserting its values and priorities. The Trump-Xi meeting may well inaugurate a new era of diplomacy, defined by strength, pragmatism, and mutually beneficial engagement, setting the tone for the international landscape for years to come.